Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hey Sunshine. My name is Shani, and today I'm so excited because I am joined by Bonnie Paterson. So Bonnie is the founder of Isla Social, which is a multi-service marketing agency. And what I love about Bonnie is she weaves manifestation, mindset, marketing, and business, and she really helps bring her clients' dream to life. She's also a digital nomad. She's off to Bali next Monday, which I'm sure we'll hear more about. And she's also a lover of the ocean, surf, nature, and magic. So I could not be more excited. So Bonnie, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Shani. Thank you so much for having me. When you said you were launching Hey Sunshine, I was like, this is so my jam. I need to be on it and hearing it in my ears all the time.
Oh, you're the best. I know you were like first to mind when I thought, who am I going to get on the podcast? So yeah, I'm really excited to chat all the things today. Now I know this question, it's really you're going to be able to answer it so well, but it's just an opening question of like, what does magic mean to you, Bonnie?
Oh, magic. Gosh, for me, the instant thought that comes to my mind is like sunrise, nature, ocean, the little things that happen around us and like paying attention to that. And it's so funny because life can get so busy and so chaotic at times that the magic actually just exists in every moment around us. And it's just as simple as tuning into that and going, wow, this is so beautiful. It's in front of me and we can make it a part of our day at any point in time.
I love that. And it's a frequency, and we can tune in and we can sort of like heighten our senses to see magic everywhere. So I totally love that. And you're right. Nature is magic just in itself. It's so perfect. So thank you for that. And I really want to dive in and just hear about your story about like creating your biz, like taking that leap, especially I think you started when you were in Bali. So can you talk a bit about your journey into coming into Isla Social and your business?
Yeah, sure. I always feel that from a young age, I like wanted to be a business owner. Like that was like an intuitive knowing, I think. And there's times in my life where I was working for other people and doing things, and I was always just in the back of my mind going, I want to do this myself. Like there's more for me, like than working for somebody else. Like I've got more to give. And it was just always in the form of being a business owner. So naturally, I always had that there. But at the very beginning, before I moved to Bali, I was working at a creative agency in Sydney, and I was doing the full 9 to 5 grind, like working for somebody else. I loved what we were doing. It was a really creative job that was like had social media marketing and photography and content creation. And that's how it kind of where I learned the basis of my business and model essentially to move on to. But it was there that I was kind of like, all right, there's got to be more for me out there. And I felt very stuck and stagnant living in Sydney. It just was not, I'm not from a city originally. I'm from a small coastal town, but I was living in Sydney just because that's where life had guided to me at that point. And it was there that I was like, okay, something's not quite right here. And then I went through like a big, I would say like spiritual awakening at that time where I broke up with my long-term ex-partner and my whole life was essentially tipped on its head. And I was like, whoa, okay, what is it that I want to do? And it was in that moment where I was just like started to hear that little voice within me go, move to Bali, move to Bali. And I was kind of like, what is this little voice? Like I can't just move to Bali. Like you can't just do that. And my whole life is in Sydney. I've got this job, you know, I live in like a beautiful apartment, all these things, all these excuses really. But that voice just got louder and louder and louder. And I was just like, I can't ignore this anymore. It was like screaming at me. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen in Bali. Like I've got to leave the comfort of my home and this life that I built there to go into this complete unknown. And it wasn't my desire essentially at that point to start a business or anything. It was more just chasing that lifestyle or just following that inner voice being like, I just need to be in Bali. I just need to book a one-way ticket and just get over there and see what's going to happen. And it's just crazy. Like it was a lot of like self-talk and everything to get me to that point to move, and like had to trust. It was trusting the universe. And this was all sort of new to me at that point. As I said, it was like a spiritual awakening. I started reading Gabby Bernstein's Universe Has Your Back.
Oh my God. We are literally, that was the book that like caused my spiritual awakening as well. It was the best book. Yeah.
Oh, I have like so much to say about that book. And at that point in my time, like in my life, it came into my life just as it like guided me through that spiritual awakening. And I read it 12 times in a row. Like I just would read it and read it again, and then I would take it in my bag.
Yeah.
It was just pivotal, right, for that time. And I took that book everywhere with me for 6 months straight, and I would just open up a chapter, read it, and it just gave me the guidance that I needed, or the confidence really to go take that step or that leap, and know that I was supported by, the universe and something
Yeah.
stronger that, was out of my control, but just to follow that inner voice. So that was really pivotal. But then I eventually got myself over there. And of course, like going from like taking that huge leap of faith and leaving something that was so comfortable, but obviously wasn't right for me, and stepping into, the unknown, and I have no idea what's going to happen. And I stepped over there, and it was crazy how aligned things were, and that flow state that just came.
Yeah.
And again, it reinforced to me that I was like, you can trust the universe. It has your back. The bigger the leap you take, the more of the reward you're going to get. And
100%.
it was so cool, because it was just like from there that like everything just flowed. And obviously there was challenges 100% along the way. It wasn't like all smooth sailing, but for the most part, it was just like flow. And the ideas and the creativity and the inspiration of that point in my life was just like, all right, buckle in, here we go. It's just like pushing me forward.
I love this.
This
Like just jacks me up so much. And it's like so many people sit there, and especially when you're getting into this spiritual world and spiritual work, they're like sitting at home being like, why is the universe not supporting me? And it's like, girl, you got to take the leap, and then the net will be there for you. Like, and that's literally what happened
100%.
in the story. Like you do all the things, you book the ticket, you book like your accommodation when you get over there, and then the magic starts to unfold. And it's really once you start getting these little like serendipitous or synchronicity, anyway, whatever that word is, at those moments, that starts building your trust muscle. So like a big thing for you in business, I want to talk about the idea of like surrendering. So like for you, like surrendering to the fact of like, my life in Sydney isn't for me. Surrendering to the fact like I'm not actually meant to work for someone else. Like, can you talk to the idea of like how surrender shows up in your business, and how you just maybe some practical tools about how people can relax into surrender in business?
Yeah, it's such a difficult one, really. Like I feel like surrendering comes all the time. Like you have to surrender to when, something's put in front of you and you're like, what do I do here? Is it out of my control? Like, or I'm trying to control it. Or I find a lot of time in business, you do try to control a lot of the outcomes. And obviously what I've learned and my belief system around spirituality is just like, you actually can't control the outcomes, because that's actually going to be a disservice to you. So you kind of have to always like, I find myself like, it's hard because it's a constant tug of war and it's constant work. It's not something that I have mastered 100%. There's still times where I'm like, oh, I found my ego's tricked me, and I find myself trying to control an outcome again. But I come back into that state of mind where I'm like, you have to surrender, let it go, let it flow. Because when you do that, you're going to be better off, and the right outcomes are going to manifest themselves for you. And like, that only comes with like doing, right? And in the art of surrendering, the more that you surrender, the more that you learn that it is actually okay to surrender. If
and
that
the more
makes
you
sense.
trust as well.
Yeah. It's the trust muscle. And I think it's hard for people at the beginning because, they haven't really built that up. But then there is times in life when you're not actually necessarily conscious to it or awake to it, and you are actually in that state of surrender, or you're in that state of manifestation, that it's happening around you. You've got to put like your mind to it and go, okay, this happened to me in the past. Actually, that was the universe supporting me. And I did have a moment of surrender. I may not have just been conscious to it, but yeah, for me in business, it's constant. Like I'll have things happen all the time, with either it's staff members or it's, social media, Instagram launches a new channel or a new element of the platform. And I'll be like, okay, here we go. I'm trying to control what we're doing. But I just have to take a step back and go surrender. Yeah. Let it do its job. Like you've set up the right systems and things. And then it kind of jump back into that state of flow. Because when we control it, it blocks us from what we need to come through.
And I think in a creative business like what you run, surrender is amazing because it brings new potentials or new ideas and possibilities to you. So do you ever have times where a client comes to you and like, I want to do this, and you've never done it before, but you're like, okay, the universe has obviously brought this to me for a reason. I'm going to trust and I'm going to accept it. Have you had any moments like that in your biz?
Oh, so many. Yes. I'm also a projector, so I have to wait for the invitation.
Yeah.
So, and I've learned that the hard way, trying to go against it too. But a lot of the time, like, they'll come to us and they'll be like, want to try this. And I always see it as like, it's a reframe into a positive mindset with things too, that I'm like, isn't it amazing that we're in this position, that they want us, that they trust us to, to do this creative work or go with this idea. And then that's coming to us, and they trust us, and that gives me the confidence to trust even myself and be like, all right, we're here, we're doing this, like what an opportunity, rather than being like, I fear this, like what could it mean, or like anything like that. And I think that has really helped my business grow and obviously build really great relationships, because I've been like, I trust that this is happening the way that it needs to. And, you know, and if it doesn't, then it's also a life lesson too, because it's like everything that I feel like I've gone through in this business has obviously taught me something. And I don't, even if it's been really challenging, I don't regret one bit of it, because it's like, I go, wow, I really needed to go through that to understand this lesson, and then to grow from it, or to heal this pattern that's sort of existing. And business has been such a big vessel for me in my life, essentially, for that, not just like growing a business, but also that personal and spiritual growth, because it's got tied to it so many different things and lessons that I'm like, wow, this is why I chose this pathway to be a business owner, to face these challenges and have these risks and responsibility. But the universe wouldn't be giving me anything that I couldn't handle.
100%.
Right. So
yeah. And it really, I always laugh. I'm like, running a business is like spiritual boot camp. Like, you cannot run away from your shit. You will be faced with every block, every hurdle, every limiting belief ever. And it's really like, we have, as you said, chosen this path to help better ourselves as business owners, but better ourselves as humans as well. And like, you know, I've probably had 3 businesses over the past like maybe 6 years, and everyone has taught me all these different lessons. And yeah, it's just such a powerful journey. And I think, like, reading up on your story, you've really used manifestation in business to sort of, like, just seeing you go from strength to strength, even in the sort of 2 or 3 years I've been in your sort of field. But do you want to talk about how you sort of use manifestation? Are there any sort of like practices or rituals you use in your day-to-day biz?
Yeah. Okay. So the biggest one definitely is journaling for me. So I've been a journaler since I can remember. Like, since I was probably like 8 years old, I would always write journals, dear diary,
Oh,
and then
that's so
write
good.
something. And
Yeah.
I kept journals all through high school, all the way through it. Then I fell off the bandwagon a little bit in my early 20s. And then when I went through that big sort of spiritual awakening, I came back really heavily to journaling. And from there, I started just writing my feelings, but also manifestation. So I got into the habit of being like, this is what I visualize. This is what I see. I see myself in a few years owning a business. This is what the business looks like. And I'd be so detailed in that visualization process in the journaling, that, so I'd be visualizing it, but also writing it down. And I love the writing it down, because then I get to keep it and then look back, and then I really remember, I'm like, whoa, this is what I wrote, and it's come true, or it's manifested almost word for word.
Oh,
And that
so
was 2
good.
years ago.
So have
And
you
then,
done the specific, non-specific manifestor test to see what you are?
no, I haven't, but I've kind of thought about it. And I think that I feel like I am specific, because I get a vision in my head, and I'm very much like, this is what it's going to be. And so this is the other component. So it's the writing it down, but then I visualize, even without like putting conscious thought, I'll still be visualizing day to day. And then I go and talk it out loud. So I'll tell people, like, I go, hey, I'm moving to Bali, or like, this is what my life's going to look like. And I say it as if it's fact already. So I reinforce again, and people are like, how do you know? Like, how do you know that already? And I'm like, no, I know. And it's deep knowing as well. That's that intuitive sort of nudge as well, being connected to your inner voice. But I'm like, I just know that that's going to happen, and I'm so trusting in it.
Yeah. And I want to talk to like that idea, because sometimes people, like, they have a dream or they have a goal, but they're like, I don't want to speak to someone because it's going to jinx it. I'm doing inverted commas. Did you ever have that sort of feeling when you were telling people like, oh, I don't want to speak about this dream because I don't want to put external pressures on it, and then it might not come true?
Actually, I've never had that, to be honest. I've got a lot of confidence and belief. And when something comes through, I'm like, I'm going to make it happen. Like, I'm quite determined. I mean, I guess that's part of being a business owner too. Like, I'm very ambitious, and I'm very determined and sort of goal driven as well. But like, if I have a thought come through and I'm like, and it feels good, and I'm like, that's it, no one can tell me otherwise that it's not going to come true. Or if they did, I'd be like, I don't believe you, because I know that my belief's stronger than that. So yeah, I know that a lot of people do struggle with that too, that they kind of they sort of don't talk about it because they're worried about what other people think, or maybe they feel like their dream, it's not going to make it happen. But the best thing you can do is just put solid belief into that dream, and know that like, it's coming true no matter what. And then the more that you stand confident in that and actually talk to people about it, will probably help it manifest a lot quicker. and
Yeah.
helps push through those blocks.
And
Yeah.
even networking in a way, like, you know, talking about starting this podcast, then people are like, oh yeah, I know this person who can help with editing, or I know this person who can help with audio. So by sharing your goals and your dreams and your vision, you can actually help people co-create with you and take that dream further. So I really love that. And there was something I want to talk to you, and it's actually back to this book about Gabby Bernstein. But in the book, and I literally clung to this little tool that she put in there, and it was the asking for a sign from the universe. And I'm sure you did this as well. So I just want to like side note this little funny story, but I was in Hawaii with my partner at the time, and I was feeling the relationship wasn't right. And like, so I was literally reading that book while I was on holidays, and it said that practice of asking the universe of a sign. So I remember saying, oh my God, okay, universe, show me a sign of a ladybird if I'm not meant to be in this relationship. And literally a couple of hours later, I saw a ladybird. But it was really that feeling that came with that sign. Like, it feels like a yes in my body that this is the right move for me. So have you used this tool? I'm sure you have, throughout your business and life.
Yeah, I've used it so many times. So that was one of the key points when I first read it too. And I was like, she was talking about she's got an owl as a sign. I think hers
Yeah.
was in the book. And that hit home for me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to play this universe sort of talk is all new to me. I'm going to play around with signs. And I thought about mine and I was like, what's a sign to me? And for me, dolphin, a
Oh,
dolphin came to
yeah.
mind. Yeah. And it was funny because I was surfing quite a bit at the time. And I was like, oh, if I see a dolphin out in the ocean, like that's how it's going to show up to me. And it was so funny because it actually didn't show up as like a dolphin in the ocean. But I asked for that sign, and essentially the universe gave it to me 2 weeks later. But I was down at a friend's place on a farm, and she had this, like, I've been there so many times before, and she was cooking me dinner, and there was like this cupboard, and I was like drawn to this cupboard, and I like put my hand in at the back of this cupboard, and I pulled out a deck of cards. And I hadn't ever done oracle or angel cards before, so this was also new to me. But I pulled out this deck of cards, and it was like the dolphin oracle cards.
Oh my God.
And I was like, and I just saw it, and I was like, what are these, to my friend? And she was like, oh, they're like oracle cards, like you ask them for like angels for guidance. And I was like, my mouth dropped, and I was like, there was dolphins on every single card. And then there was a bit part at the beginning that was like, what do dolphins mean in spirituality? And it's like fun, playful, these things. But I was just like, that's my sign. It's come in the form.
So cool.
And so it doesn't necessarily have to be how I thought it was going to show up, but it showed up and I knew what it was. And then I just knew that I was on the right track. And I was like, okay, I surrender again and know that like I am supported by a force or something that's beyond me,
greater.
right? That I can relax. Yeah, that's greater than me. And then throughout life, like I've had times where I felt a bit turbulent or a bit low, maybe going a little bit off path with what's in alignment. And I do call upon that sign again. I'm like, give me a sign, universe. Sometimes I call for it when I really need it. And then other times I've just been like out in the surf, and one time I was out in the surf and I'd been really quite serious with the business, probably trying to control rather than surrender at that point. And I went for a surf one morning. So I was like, need to take the morning off. And I was out in the ocean, and all these dolphins started like swimming around me and like playing through the waves. And I just was like, oh my God, they're showing me that I need to have more fun and be more playful with my approach. And it like snapped me out of like my little like stress period that I was going through. And I was like, the universe is giving me the sign to just relax, like have fun. And then I came out of the sort of fun. So yeah, definitely follows me and gives me the signs at the right time. And sometimes it's intentional, but other times it's more that the universe is like, hey, just giving you another little sign.
Yeah. And like for people who want to start playing with this tool, like it's in the Gabby Bernstein's book, The Universe Has Your Back. And it's, literally just asking for a sign on a certain question you have, or you can just ask for a general sign. And the more you start playing with it, the more you are so cemented in the fact that like magic is so real and the universe is always around us and always supporting us. So just have a play around with this and just see how your signs pop up. And for me as well, it was like, as I started playing more and more with it, you actually start to just feel a yes in your body and feel a no without even seeing your signs. So I love that whole book. I feel like that should be like on the curriculum in every school because it's just so special. So I want to talk next about, it's still in the business realm, but like calling in your dream clients. Like, do you use the process of manifestation to call in your dream clients, or how do you sort of go about that?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one. I have done that, definitely. I've been like, this is what my dream client is. But I think to get to that point, I had to figure out who my dream client was. And in that process brought so many challenges. Like I went through so many like experiences, but I think that was a part of like going a bit deeper now into like healing some of my wounds or like patterns and things that show up, that I was like more of a people pleaser. So the things that I would do, and I wouldn't set boundaries. And I had to go through like about a year or two of really going back through the ringer a little bit and kind of learning what it was. And I was like, hang on a second, now I've got to step into my worth and set my boundaries and actually really, really clear. And I'm like, this is the type of person I want to work with. And then that's where I guess the manifestation came in, because then I got clear on what it was. I was like, this is the type of person I want to work with. They respect my time and obviously my industry experience and all of those things. And they are happy to pay on time, like all the things that I had learned that I didn't sort of appreciate, that I was like, okay, this is what the dream client is. But then I set boundaries around that. And it wasn't until I actually took directive action about getting rid of my last sort of non-dream client, I guess, that was not the best. They kind of obviously didn't treat me very well or respect me and things like that. But I just kept being like, it's okay, not stepping into that worth element. And then eventually I was like, enough is enough. Like, I've got to get rid of them, regardless of the money, whatever. It's not serving me. It's not making me feel good. How can I manifest dream clients if I'm not, honoring that? So I cut the ties with that particular client. It was one of the last ones that I ever had. That was a few years ago. And from that moment, I've only ever manifested dream clients, because it was super clear on who that was. And I think it was stepping into my worth to be like, I will never put up with that again. I've been through it. I'm at a point. This is what I visualize. This is what I'm going to attract in. And then it all came to me. But it took a few years of learning, I think, before I was able to really like drop into that.
And you really do. You have to learn the hard ways, and you've got to learn what you don't want to then call in what you do want. And I feel like I'm picking up Lacey Phillip vibes when you're talking about stepping into your worth, especially in business. Like if you've written your list on your dream client, you should not be accepting anything that isn't that list. So I love that, and just honoring what you actually want and what you're worth as well. It's so special. So you're moving to Bali on Monday, and you're taking your biz to Bali. So I really love about your story how you've created a business to support your life rather than a life to support your business, if I've said that right. So how did you go about like really creating that structure and making the business work for you? Because there's probably a lot of people who are sitting here being like, I don't want my business to run me. And like, what are just some tips to like really help people create that dream business and life?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I guess for me, okay, so I was in Bali and lifestyle always came first. I was there for the lifestyle. The business came secondary to that, because to stay in Bali, I had to figure out a way to stay there. So I was like, I don't want to leave yet, but I've got to obviously earn an income and I've got to be creative about that. So I looked at my skill set and I was kind of like, I went to uni, I did 1 year at a creative agency. I know a little bit about marketing, I'm going to pop it together. And then so the business kind of formed out of that. And then I was clear that I was like, I'm always creating this, and I always wanted a different structure. I didn't want to go back to the 9 to 5 and work for somebody else. So I was like, what does that look like for me? So it was that belief that I could make it happen. That was huge. And I've held belief the whole time. Like, you can't do much unless you truly believe in yourself and what you're setting out to do, and then having that vision. But for me at the beginning, like living in Bali, I was quite fortunate because I was surrounded by so many entrepreneurial people. So a lot of people are doing it their own way there. They're starting their own businesses. So it was like a really great way to sort of connect into that. And obviously see, I'm like, my friends are all starting businesses, I can do it too, sort of mentality, rather like collaborative rather than competitive. And I kind of, so I built the business out of that, and I just built on my skills, and kind of like the drive to make the lifestyle work was what really pushed me. It was never really, obviously money is an important factor, but it was always like, I'm doing this for the lifestyle and for my happiness and to enjoy what I'm doing every day. So I just maintained those feelings constantly throughout the business. And obviously a big part of like when I was working and stuck in Sydney, I felt stuck. I was like, I don't want to just be in one spot. Like, I want to create this business that allows me to be anywhere I want to be. And this is pre-COVID time. So it was actually quite abnormal to actually just take off and not even, and work remotely. I mean, people were doing it, but it's definitely more on the radar now after COVID, because we all had to work from home and things like that. But I had to be very disciplined. I think that's the other thing that a lot of people forget too. I think showing up for my business every day and creating routine and structure around that too, because particularly living in Bali, anywhere really, if you don't have that structure and discipline, then everything falls apart pretty quickly, especially because you're like, oh, my friend wants to go for, lunch or a drink or something like that. And if you're doing that over like prioritizing your business, then it can fall apart. So I think you need to have that structure, discipline. I found it, I didn't want to work Monday to Friday, but I did find having some sort of routine to support the work life was important. But yeah, so I started in Bali and it took off. And then I was like, okay, Bali's not serving me anymore. I'm going to go back to Australia just before COVID sort of happened. And then I kind of was like, I want to establish myself here in Byron and build the business here, which I've done. And then now I'm kind of, and I did have an office space actually at one
I
point.
saw it. Looks like dream office space. It's so beautiful.
It was stunning. And that was something that was actually a vision or a dream of mine to have that. Like before I got to Byron, I was like, I want to have I would visualize and write my manifestation journal. I visualized having a team in Byron with an office and doing all of that. And I'm really, really grateful that I actually got to live out that dream. But in the process, I found that I was like, actually, I don't want to be tied to a place or a spot. So I moved it back into a remote space, which I'm loving now, because now I'm going to Bali on Monday, which is a few days away. And I've kind of it's almost like coming full circle. Like I left Bali to do some healing here in Oz and connect and ground back to Australian life. But now I'm feeling that big call, I think, like a lot of people after COVID, to be back in that sort of digital nomad space. And that's the whole essence of my business, was to be in that space where I can go anywhere. Like that's why I created it. So yeah, it feels really great to actually be tapping back into that now and being like, this is why I created it and here we go, sort of thing. And again, I'm back in that sort of same position where I'm like, I don't really know what's going to happen over there. It's all a bit of unknown. Like I do have an idea of what my lifestyle is going to look, but there is that element of being like, it's going to be fun. Like, and I'm ready to embrace that, and the opportunity and expansiveness that comes from putting yourself in those situations is usually really, really, really high. So I'm kind of like, let's go with that.
And this is again just that like trusting and surrendering to the plan and taking that leap and letting the universe meet you there. So I'm so excited to see what like the next 12 months of Isla Social looks like. And I know you've been secretly working on a little other offering in the sort of biz mentoring spiritual space. Do you want to, are we allowed to know a little bit more about it?
Yes, absolutely. So obviously I'm very marketing business sort of industry space at the moment, but on the side for the last couple of years, I've actually done a kinesiology course. And
so good.
Yes, which that actually also like allowed me to crack open again, almost in a way, in my spiritual journey, kind of going deeper into, subconscious patterns and programming and things like that, and limiting beliefs that, a lot of us hold. And I find in business, because I've coached over like hundreds of women in business and marketing, that the thing that kept coming up, I was like, I can give people all the marketing tactics and tools, but if they're not working through their limiting beliefs or that subconscious programming that's not supporting them, then how can we actually create transformation or help people actually achieve their dreams? So from there, I've kind of been doing courses and things. So I'm moving more into this space where it's still in that business marketing domain, because obviously I have a lot of experience helping people start their businesses and grow them online. But I really want to bring in that essence of mindset and manifestation through this new offering that is going to be launched fairly soon. I'm working on the programs and things like that. And it's just going to bring in a lot more like kinesiology, subconscious mindset work, and tying it into whatever it is the dreams are. It could be owning a business, having that financial freedom and flexibility to do whatever it is, location, so independent, things like that. But yeah, it's going to sort of, I think, evolve into a multi-area sort of approach for life. And yeah, I'm super excited about it because it really lights me up as well, because all of this has been huge on my journey, and I've seen how positive it can be when you actually work through these. It's hard work sometimes though. It's confronting work. But
it's big time.
Yeah,
big
once
time.
you get big time. But once you start working through it, you kind of go, oh gosh, yeah, like here we go. Like we're breaking through those blocks or limiting beliefs, and we're actually making that real magic happen.
So Blake, my partner, has a saying, and he's like, all of your business problems are personal problems wrapped up as business problems. So like whatever you're experiencing, money troubles, like cash flow, staffing issues, it's really a personal problem in disguise as a business problem. And for the past probably year, I've been working with a kinesiologist in my business, and it's just been so powerful. And honestly, anytime there's like, a little issue or anything, I'm like, okay, cool, let's get to the bottom of it. I'm like, what really is it? Because it's never what we think. So it's honestly so powerful. And Yeah, I just want to wrap up with a quick sort of takeaway question for someone wanting to set up this digital nomad lifestyle, create a business, or really step into their authentic self. Like, what's a little takeaway tip or advice that you could give people?
Yeah, I think it would be getting really clear on the vision that they're wanting to create. So, really tapping into that and using those sort of manifestation tools of journaling, visualization, talking it aloud, because that will just help them on the process to actually making it happen. And just solid belief, like that belief in yourself. I think that for me has always been the grounding point, that I'm like, I believe that I can make this dream happen. And I want it so bad that nothing's going to stop me, essentially. So I think really getting clear on what it is that you want to create, the lifestyle you want to bring in, and then believing in yourself and knowing that it's on its way to you and it's going to happen regardless.
Oh, honestly, this conversation has just filled my cup so much, Bonnie. So thank you. And just before we go, I wanted to get your Instagram. If you could just tell people how to connect with you, perhaps book a session or follow on in your journey.
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on my personal Instagram, which is at Bonnie Paterson, and then all my business Instagram, which is at @IslaSocial_.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, and good luck for your trip to Indo. And I'm sure we'll get you on another podcast very soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.